What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another deck profile here on TCG University for the card game UniVersus. My name is Tam, and today I'm going to be showing you Tyler's Raphael 2-Dot deck that he played for the UniVersus Campus Championship this past week. It was the Patreon picks. So if you don't know, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TCG University, and we do these themes for these Campus Championships, and this week's theme was Patreon got to pick. So they get to pick from a list of characters we haven't done yet and see who battled it out. So if you like that, make sure that you go out to the Patreon so you can vote on next time that we have a Patreon pick, as well as catch all these matches live on Twitch. With that said, let's jump into the deck. All right, so Raphael 2-Dot. If you have not seen one of my deck profiles before, basically what I'm going to be doing is instead of just reading off the cards verbatim, I'm going to be telling you more or less what the deck wants to do. So Raphael 2-Dot. What this deck wants to do is this deck wants to play a lot of really long strings and not counting towards progressive difficulty. The Enhanced Flip of Foundation is the main enhance that we're playing. The flip for the extra speed is just honestly a bonus. A lot of cards in our deck are going to be synergizing off of making sure that we can play these really big, really expensive cards late into our chain, but still play them, on a 5. Things like Spirit Shotgun is like a fantastic example of what we're trying to pull off with this Raphael 2-Dot deck. But it is a little strange because it is also trying to gauge in Raphael 1-Dot. Yeah, this is a really interesting deck and gets a ton of value off of the ability of Raphael 1-Dot. Raphael 1-Dot is by no means a bad character. Maybe not the strongest character that came out of the original Soul Calibur set, but he's certainly even better whenever we get to tag team him with the 2-Dot. So not only are, in case we fail a check and we have to commit some extra cards, if they block anything, we're going to ready back up. And he's really, really solid on defense because we can commit foundations and change them to any of the zone, and then flip the foundation if we have a card of the same name inside of our card pool. It doesn't count towards progressive. That does count for blocking as well. So both of these combined does some really, really strong synergies. So as we do some stuff, I'm going to keep them both down here. So, on to the attacks. So, the first attack that we're going to be playing is, we're playing for Dust to Dust. This card gets a ton of mileage as soon as I've stacked both of my Raphaels, as well as it has Gauge, and it lets me find an additional one. Yes, it is a 6 difficulty card, but it being a 6 difficulty is not that big a deal when, if I do happen to have both my characters, I start to play them, I start to commit my cards, they block one of them with Raphael, I'll ready back all my cards, and then continue. This card does not count towards progressive difficulty, which is exactly what we want Raphael to be doing. And so at the end of my chain, I'll just play a bunch of Dust to Dust to finish off the match. Our other big Gauge card is for Ashen Claws. This card is phenomenal inside of Raphael for 2 reasons. One, we are playing Spirit Shotgun. You'll see that a little bit later when it does share 2 symbols. It is a 4 difficulty card, 4 difficulty attack, which is also important. And it it freezes one of my opponent's committed foundations, and most importantly, it gauges, because seeing my Raphael 1-Dot means that just my character gets to do more things, which is, important. The deadlock ability is not necessarily important. It can be useful depending on how late in the game we get to deadlock, or how early in the game we get to deadlock. It really just depends. Deadlock abilities wise, it's not fantastic. It's just fine. Our next attack is for Thundering Impacts. This is a throw, which is really, really good, as well as if its attack speed is greater than printed, it gets plus 3 damage. With Raphael's 1-Dots twice per turn enhance, every time my opponent passes, it gets plus 1 speed. It's really easy to make this thing, a 4 high after they pass once, and then you just give it 4 damage. Not to mention any other time they pass, it's just an unblockable 7 damage attack on a 4 diff. Pretty good. You can see the synergies. Up next, the big bad card. We're playing for Kanonade. This card is fantastic. It's really, really cool, really interesting inside of this deck. Really cool pick. I certainly didn't see it as Tyler was making it. Kanonade picks itself up. And as Raphael, I want extra copies of the same card in the card pool. So I play a Kanonade, flip a card. If it hits them, I get to pick another one up out of my discard, and I'll just play it. And the second one ignores progressive. So I can have 14 cards in my card pool, and this is still on a 5. And then we flip another card, and it hits them. We play another one. We flip another card, and it hits them. Not to mention, it gets extra damage for each character in my card pool. Not to mention, if it does get blocked with the other Raphael, I get to ready up some foundations. Or I can change this into a low because of how Raphael works. There's so much that I can do with this character when everything is going well. The next and last attack that we're playing is for Spirit Shotgun. Man, this card is impressive inside of this deck. playing out a Spirit Shotgun, and then building out, flipping Raphael, flipping out playing all your stuff, and then flipping a Foundation and playing this late into a chain is just super, super strong. It's going to get a ton of damage. It only gets 1 damage with Raphael by itself, but with all the other awesome cards that we have to clog our card pool and go off, this card is a game ender for sure. Up next, we've got our assets and actions. The first asset we're playing is Double Omega Sword and Owl Shield. This card is incredibly, incredibly good because of how defensive Raphael 1-dot can be. This makes life Raphael 1-dots personally my favorite symbol just because of this card by itself. I'll commit a card and then make sure I can auto-block something. And then with it essentially says that you don't have to pay cost on Raphael's flip ability on defense. It's just, I mean, Omega Sword and Owl Shield's already doing it. They have to worry about this, and if they do happen to get rid of the card, we still have Raphael to work with. Up next, we've got 1 Flambear. This card is insane in Raphael 2-dot because it is 3 separate enhances. And you can just say, this attack gets +1 speed, this high attack gets +1 speed or -1 speed. And you can use this ability even if the attack isn't a high, mid, or low. So what I mean is if I'm playing a high attack, I use the enhance on Raphael every time my opponent passes. Here are 3 free enhances with no cost that I can just use over and over and over again. I could just enhance, enhance, enhance. Oh, did you pass 3 times? Well, not only did my thing get the 1 speed that it deserved, possibly 2 speed depending on Raphael's ability, but it's also going to get another 3 speed because you passed each of those times, possibly 5 speed because you passed each of those times. Like there's a lot of value on top of all 3 of these cards synergizing together. Up next, we're playing Double the Dark Tournament Looms. This can be either just a replacement card, or it can be a replacement +1. Enhance, remove, add a card from my momentum up to my hand, and then draw an additional card. So maybe I don't want the 2 mid-block, maybe I'm looking for something to kill him. Well, I'll add an attack that I've poked you with, and then continue. Really, really solid if I have this and a Kanonade that I know has touched them. I'll send the rest to my discard pile, I'll play an attack, and then proceed to play all the Kanonades after I've added this one up to my hand. On to the foundations. Foundations we put into a couple different tiers, aggro, flow, defense, and disruption. And so the first aggro card that we're playing is 1 Confronting Jetta. This card is considered an aggro card. It could be a defensive card, but the reason I want to count it as aggro is because a lot of my cards in my deck don't necessarily kill people all by themselves. I mean, they certainly can, but Confronting Jetta is certainly going to help them. Giving your Spirit Shotgun at the end of a chain, using Raphael's once per turn, and then giving it 10+ damage because it got 10+ speed is really, really solid. Not to mention it can be used defensively because I can use Raphael's ability and then force my opponent to pass a bunch of enhances, giving their attack speed, and it just says +X equal to the difference, and so you give their thing +10 speed and then you enhance and then give it -10 damage. Up next, we're playing Double Prelude to Madness. Really solid in Raphael because it unflips our foundations, as well as if I have flipped the foundation, my attack gets +1 damage for each copy of the attack. So I can get up to +4 damage for essentially just doing nothing. I've made my abilities useful. I've flipped a card and then +4/+4. Onto the flow cards, we're playing 1 The Sun's Love. Just first form, I'm an 8-hander for the turn, possibly a 9-hander if my opponent is needy enough for that momentum. This card is just a really staple card. You should probably be playing one of it in every symbol that it can. Up next, we're playing Triple Passing the Torch, one of the strongest cards for Raphael 1-dot. I will commit a couple of these to draw some cards, block with it, and then with Raphael, I will ready them back up, and then I can draw again to draw more blocks, or even just to commit him with his own ability. Up next, one of the coolest cards in the deck is 3 Insect Puppeteer. So this card is way more formidable than it looks on the surface. So it says enhance once per turn, add a 4 damage life attack from your discard pile to your card pool, and then ready this foundation. So this does 2 things. Number 1, it adds a card into my card pool for Shotgun. Number 2, it adds a card into my card pool for Raphael. I'll play an attack, and then Insect Puppeteer a card in, and then flip the Insect Puppeteer for Raphael's ability, or a different card. And now when I take and play that same named 4 damage life attack, it doesn't count towards progressive. So I have ready the foundation and played an additional attack, a fall free. We get the exact same ability off of Sense of Morals. I get the exact same ability to happen, and it's all based on This is just any card, enhance commit, add to the top, discard the top 3, add one of those. So I can add a Spirit Shotgun into my card pool and then flip the committed Sense of Morals and then play the Spirit Shotgun out of my hand for free. It's digging a little bit deeper for both Shotgun as well as Raphael's ability, and it's really, really strong. And the cool thing with Sense of Morals is since it is commit, if they block their thing, I'll ready it back up and then play it back again. On the defense, we're playing Double Bakery Poster Girl, a beautiful playable while committed, so I can enhance with Raphael, commit this card to change the zone, and then block, and on their next attack, destroy the committed foundation in order to make sure that my block can happen. Put their speed to 0. Speaking of really good blocks, we don't have to put their speed to 0 if this attack does it for us. I'll commit any foundation that I want with Raphael to 1-dot, and then auto block with Nightmare Tears. I'll make your high attack low. Cool, auto block it. And then the same type of mentality with Syndicate Target, but it's really good in Raphael 1-dot because it is blank whenever it's built, and it's got some really gnarly 0-6 stats, and so I'll play it on my first turn, and then it's my first target to flip. It already doesn't have card text. It doesn't have card text while it's face up, so it certainly won't have card text while it's face down. We're playing one last of his kind for more defense. This card's really, really solid, I think, just because of the pay 2, but this character does get into desperation fairly quickly, and so it could be considered an aggro tool as well, but like the primary use of this card is to keep yourself alive and then eventually close out the game. On to the disruption. We're playing Triple Betrayed by the Family. So this card could be considered a little bit of a flow card, maybe a bit of an aggressive card, just because it readies during my opponent's combat phase. But the most important part is it lets me be a little more proactive with Raphael. I can commit with Raphael 1-dot's ability and change the zone when I need to, and then on my opponent's turn ready it back up, as well as anytime that my opponent tries to interact with the thing that I'm doing, I'm going to commit their coolest piece on their board. And so if they reduce the speed or damage of my attack, I don't know, one of my crazy big shotguns, I'm going to commit both of these on my turn and then ready them back up so I can block on their turn. And then for the same reason, we're playing Triple Manifestation. This card is really, really good on as a disruption piece with Raphael 1-dot. I will commit it to the cost, and then my opponent commits one of their foundations. Up next, we're playing double the Hunt for Spiders and Dragons. This is just targeted removal or targeted foundation control. And so if they have a really good ability that is going to interrupt my game plan or is going to really help with theirs, I'm just going to play this into my card pool and then flip it. It does work really well off of Sense of Adventure as well. This is one of the amazing cards I can add in. Up next, we're playing double Ominous Prophecy. Taking away keywords is really, really good, or randomly if I need a momentum. I can't remember if any of our attacks use momentum besides the EX1 attack, but I just want to knock out. This is completely stopping my opponent from making their game plans happen. And then my last card is Double Protecting the Protector. I think this card is necessary in almost every single deck that can play it. If 2 might be a little too much, and this might be what we need the Ominous Prophecy momentum for, but 1 at least. Especially because we're gauging and we're stacking. My character now has 4 abilities, and so it's an even more likely target to get sealed, or sealed or committed, and I very much don't want that to happen. All right, thank you so much for watching this Raphael 2 deck profile. If you liked that, make sure you check out all of the other deck profiles here on the channel, as well as the matches that Raphael got to play in. They were a blast. I really, really enjoyed watching this deck be piloted. If you want to watch the deck as we film them live, make sure you go out to twitch.tv/TCGUniversity. And if you want to be a part of the campus championship, submit deck ideas, and so on and so forth, make sure you check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/TCGUniversity. So from all of us, with that, thank you very much for watching and stay learned.